Today, we're diving into a major shift in health tech, a real revolution that could, honestly, change the daily lives of more than 1 billion people. We're talking about measuring one of our most basic vital signs, blood pressure. But get this, without that tight, squeezing cuff we all know and, well, don't love.
I want you to just think about this for a second. What if that watch on your wrist, the one that's counting your steps and telling you how you slept, could also give you a constant live feed of the pressure inside your arteries? I'm not talking about a once-a-day measurement. I mean a continuous stream of data. This isn't some far-off sci-fi dream. The technology to do this is actually here.
And why does this matter so much? It all comes down to this massive number, 1.13 billion. According to the World Health Organization, that's how many people around the globe have hypertension, high blood pressure. It's often called the silent killer, and for good reason. It can wreck your heart and your kidneys long before you even have a clue that something's wrong.
So to really get why a cuffless future is so exciting, we first have to talk about the problem. I mean, our current gold standard for measuring blood pressure is literally a piece of 19th century technology. And frankly, it is really starting to show its age.
Let's just be honest with ourselves. The traditional cuff is a total pain. It's inconvenient, it's uncomfortable, and if you've ever had to wear one for 24 hours straight, you know that getting a good night's sleep is pretty much impossible. But it goes beyond just being annoying. This leads to real problems. You get these errors like white coat hypertension. That's where your blood pressure shoots up just from the stress of being at a doctor's office. The biggest flaw, though, it only gives you a few snapshots, a couple of readings here and there. It doesn't give you the full story. And the results of all this? People just don't use it. Compliance is low, and a critical health signal goes completely unchecked.
So, how do we fix this whole situation? Well, the solution is a totally different way of thinking. Instead of squeezing the arm to stop the blood flow, these new wearables are learning to listen to the super subtle signals that your body is putting out all the time.
At the heart of most of these new gadgets is a technology called photoplasmography, or PPG. Now, that sounds really complex, but the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. Your smartwatch shines a little light into your skin, and a sensor measures how much of that light bounces back. See, as blood pulses through your capillaries, the amount of light that gets reflected changes. And just like that, we get a nice, clean, continuous waveform of your pulse.
Now, one of the really clever ways to use that PPG signal is to calculate something called pulse transit time, or PTT. Here's a good way to think about it. It's kind of like figuring out how far away a storm is by counting the seconds between the lightning and the thunder. The lightning, in this case, is the electrical spark from your heart, which an ECG can pick up. The thunder is when that pressure wave actually arrives at your wrist, which the PPG sensor sees. That tiny delay, the pulse transit time, is directly connected to how stiff your arteries are, which in turn tells us a lot about your blood pressure. But PTT is just one method. Engineers are coming up with a whole new toolkit of sensors to listen in on the body. So beyond the optical PPG sensors that we see in smartwatches and rings, you've got tonometry sensors that physically press against an artery to feel the pulse wave. There are even these tiny skin patches with piezo-resistive sensors that can feel the strain as an artery expands and contracts. And some devices use magnetic fields to detect the artery's movement. It's just this incredible explosion of different, creative ways to get the same data.
Okay, but collecting all these signals, that's really only half the battle. This raw data is messy, it's noisy, it's complex. The real magic, the part that turns all those squiggly lines into an actual, accurate blood pressure number, well, that happens when we bring in artificial intelligence.
If you look at a pulse signal coming from a PPG sensor, what you're really seeing is just a one-dimensional line. It's an amplitude that goes up and down over time. So the big question is, how on earth can a computer understand something as incredibly complex as your entire cardiovascular system from what is essentially a simple line?
And this is the big breakthrough idea. Instead of just feeding the AI a boring line of numbers, researchers are transforming that 1D signal into a 2D image. It's amazing. They are literally teaching the AI to see blood pressure hidden inside the patterns of your pulse.
So check this out. On the left, you see the simple 1D pulse wave we were talking about. But on the right, that's something called a Gramian angular field, or a GAF plot. Now, this isn't just a pretty picture. It's a sophisticated mathematical transformation that turns that flat line into this rich, colorful matrix. You can think of it like this. Every single pixel in that image represents the relationship between two different points in time on that original pulse wave. This technique pulls out all these hidden patterns and rhythms that were totally invisible when it was just a simple line graph.
And this is where the AI really earns its keep. It's trained on millions and millions of these pulse pictures, and each one is tagged with a true, cuff-based blood pressure reading. The AI starts to learn, to connect the visual patterns it sees in the image to the actual numbers. It uses these really powerful deep learning models like CNNs and transformers, and it can even fuse data from different signals at the same time, like combining an ECG with a PPG. It also learns to ignore all the noise, which makes its predictions that much more reliable.
Now, all of this sounds absolutely incredible, right? And it is. But let's be realistic. The journey from a pristine research lab to the device that's actually on your wrist is a pretty bumpy one. This technology still has some major hurdles it needs to clear.
One of the biggest challenges right now is something called calibration drift. You see, most of these devices still need you to use a traditional cuff once at the beginning to get a baseline reading. But what we're seeing is, over time, the model's accuracy starts to degrade. After maybe a week, the error is still pretty low, but by week 3, it can be way off. The AI's predictions slowly drift away from reality, and that means you have to recalibrate it all the time.
And this really gets at the huge gap that exists between a perfectly controlled lab and the chaos of our everyday lives. In the lab, you have a person sitting perfectly still, but in the real world, you're walking around, you're typing on a keyboard, you're swinging your arms. All of that movement creates what's called motion artifacts. It's basically just signal noise that can completely scramble the data the sensor is trying to read.
So for this technology to ever be truly medically reliable, it has to account for all of our human diversity. Motion, as we said, is enemy number one. But there's more. A person's BMI can change how well the sensor sits on the skin. Skin tone can actually interfere with the light-based sensors. Arterial stiffness changes as we age, and that throws off the calculations. And to top it all off, there isn't even a universal, agreed-upon standard for how to test and validate these devices yet.
But look, despite these very real challenges, the path forward is getting clearer every day. The potential reward here is just so huge that researchers are tackling these problems head-on. The future of how we monitor our vital signs is literally being built as we speak.
So this is basically the roadmap for making cuffless monitoring a reality for everyone. First up, we need smarter, calibration-free algorithms. Second, we have to train the AI on massive, diverse data sets that actually reflect the world's population. The hardware itself needs to get better and more robust at filtering out noise. And this is critical. The entire industry needs to agree on a single, standardized way to test these things. And maybe the most exciting part? The end goal is to create personalized models, an algorithm fine-tuned just for your unique body, which could solve a lot of these accuracy problems all at once.
So, let's end with this thought. The inflatable cuff we use is a relic. It's from the 19th century. The technology we're seeing pop up today is a genuine quantum leap forward. It's promising a future where keeping an eye on a deadly condition like hypertension is as simple as just glancing down at your watch. The revolution is already happening, and it's not just going to be convenient, it's going to save lives.